The governments of Iraq and Australia have recently finalized the agreement concerning the legal status of the 200-man Australian advisory force. That force of 200 Australian special operators will soon go to Iraq and begin its work. It was also recently announced that that advisory force will be working with the CTS, or the Iraqi Counterterrorism Service. During this video, I'll explain a little bit about the CTS and why that's a good fit for this advisory force, and I'll also cover some of the challenges that this advisory force is likely to face. The CTS is a coordinating headquarters agency whose primary operational element is the Iraqi Special Operations Force. The Iraqi Special Operations Force is a large military organization consisting of 2 Special Operations Force brigades. One of those brigades is in Baghdad. The other brigade is a dispersed brigade that normally has battalions or commando battalions at key cities located around Iraq. The ISOF element was raised and trained by U.S. Special Forces during Operation Iraqi Freedom from 2004 to about 2011. It is a high-quality professional force of special operations troops and is probably the best unit that Iraq has to offer at this time. The unit, however, has been controversial over the years. In 2007, then Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki removed the CTS from the control of the Ministry of Defense and actually placed it under the operational control of the Prime Minister's office. This plus other incidents over the years led to controversy over its role and its reputation. Some even called it the Dirty Brigade or the Dirty Brigades. However, since 2011, the Iraqi Special Operations Forces have proven very effective. They have been able to stand and fight with IS, they have rescued hostages, and done their counterterrorism mission very well. They now are called more by their official nickname, known as the Golden Brigades or the Golden Brigade. The ISOF element is a good choice for partnering with Australian Special Operations Forces. They will be doing a partnering mission, and when we say partnering, what we're actually referring to is when you have like units or similar units working together, and these units have the same core missions and general capabilities. So these Iraqi Special Operations Forces and these Australian Special Operations Forces specialize in counterterrorism and direct action missions. So for the Australians, they'll come in already knowing what right should look like with the force that they're advising. Now, it's a bit asymmetric because there'll be a 200-man advisory force, which is essentially a squadron plus of Australian special operators, probably advising a brigade or parts of an Iraqi Special Operations brigade. The Australian special operators will face some initial challenges when they arrive. First of those challenges will be building trust and rapport with the Iraqi Special Operations Forces and, of course, conducting an assessment of the organization's capabilities. With trust and rapport, it will be important for the Australian Special Operators to remember that several of the officers and non-commissioned officers from the Iraqi element have been in combat fighting for, in some cases, for the last 10 years. So there'll be a high level of experience for many of them, but they've also suffered a good deal of casualties, so there may be a lot of new recruits who don't quite have that experience. It'll be important for the Australians to be sensitive to this fact, but they'll also have to conduct an assessment. For the last few months or so, U.S. Special Operations Forces have been on the ground with the Iraqi Special Operations Forces, and they have likely already conducted some kind of assessment that it's highly likely that they've shared this with the Australians, and that there's been a great deal of discussion over the past few months over specific task organization. In other words, which elements the Australian special operators will partner with, what exactly are the gaps that they need to fill, and what capabilities do they have to work on. Now, the assessment of the Iraqi Special Operations Forces may indicate that there are various weaknesses that have developed from their very high operational tempo over the last several years. These weaknesses could be in just their tactics, techniques, and procedures, but more than likely, they are also in the more boring stuff, so to speak, but very important stuff, such as their logistics and sustainment systems, their communication systems, their command and control systems, and even their force generation. In other words, how they're raising new soldiers and new recruits. All of these are going to be important for what is bound to be a long-term advisory effort. A third challenge that they're likely to face is that after some time, these Australian special operators will see value in requesting the authority to accompany their Iraqi counterparts on missions. Now, they may seek to do this only at certain headquarters levels. They're likely to make the case that accompanying the Iraqi Special Operations Forces at certain headquarters levels will improve their overall effectiveness, and they'll probably be right. If they're a little closer to the fight, they'll be better able to integrate coalition assets into the fight, and they'll also likely improve the morale and the rapport with their Iraqi forces. However, this will increase the risk to the Australians, and this is likely to be a bit of cognitive tension, so to speak, between the tactical advisors and their higher headquarters. This will be a point that I'm sure will be discussed between political leaders and the military operational leaders as they assess the risks involved with placing Australian special operators closer to the action and closer to the fight. It's important to remember that these advisors are still accepting some risks, and it's still a dangerous mission. Just the other day, IS was able to kill an Iraqi general with a suicide vest. I have little doubt that IS will create or seize opportunities to attack foreign advisors, as the death of a foreign advisor will be an effective piece in their strategic narrative.